Hello and welcome to Athens Speakout. This is program 367. I'm with Dr. Robert Whaley. Today we're going to discuss the proposal of the legalization of medical marijuana being put on the Ohio State ballot for this November. And I want to talk to Dr. Whaley to get his viewpoint on this and see how he stands. And I guess we can go right to the program by asking Mr. Whaley what he thinks about this proposal.
Well, you better announce our qualifications.
So anyway, Robert Whaley here is a historian, a social historian, I guess.
No, I'm a diplomatic historian.
A diplomatic social historian, or just a plain social historian. We'll get that out of the way.
We have a friend by the name of John Burnham who is a social historian.
That's right. That's who I was thinking of when I mentioned the social historian.
Okay.
But anyway, Dr. Whaley, that's proposed for this November. You need to move up here a little bit. And it's going to be on the ballot. And now 24 states have already legalized. Yes, 24 states have already legalized that. That's already been said, Robert. So how do you feel about that going on the ballot? And could you give me a reason why you don't want to legalize marijuana?
Well, marijuana is a well-known drug that's been used for centuries.
Give us a little history on
Yes,
marijuana.
I'm going to give you a little history.
Good.
It was first discovered by the Arabs.
Okay.
And it was called hashish.
Okay.
And that became a slang.
And about what year was that?
Oh, I'd say probably about 1300, 1200.
Right.
And hashish was used by Arabs instead of alcohol.
Okay.
Because the Arabs prohibited alcohol. Mm-hmm. Because the Jewish Bible said, "Thou shalt not take strong drink."
Right.
And there was a famous story about Noah's Ark and how Noah and his sons were drunk and so forth and so on.
I see.
And the Jewish religion had a very Puritan philosophy. They restricted sexual activity. They discouraged sexual activity. And they discouraged drunkenness.
Right.
The sin in the Jewish religion was drunkenness. Mm-hmm. It was not the alcohol itself.
Right, but one thing can sometimes lead to the other.
Well,
People become intoxicated and then they
but
indulge in activity which might not be socially acceptable.
Okay, well, the study of medicine is hard to teach people the difference between a medicine and a drug taken for pleasure. Mm-hmm. Now, a drug taken for pleasure is psychoactive.
Right.
And people get drunk
in
order to escape from their problems.
Right.
That's one motive. Mm-hmm. A second motive is to drown their sorrows after death and so forth and so on. So drunkenness was discouraged by the ancient Jewish religion, and then the Muslims and the Christians took up that same Puritan atmosphere.
Okay.
Now, what the Arabs discovered was the chemical alcohol. If you distill beer, and if you distill wine, you can get a more powerful high, a more powerful medicine to get you drunk faster, see? Okay. So distilled wine becomes brandy.
Okay.
Okay. And distilled beer becomes a kind of a whiskey. It's made of grain, you see. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, the British followed the Christian religion, and Calvinism was a more puritanical religion
Right.
than the old-fashioned Catholicism.
Yeah.
The old-fashioned Catholicism had wine as a ceremonial drink. When Jesus was crucified,
Right.
he said, take this wine.
You're going to have to watch your
Yeah.
microphone here.
Sorry about
We're
that.
not going to be able to hear you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, gotcha.
Good. So when the Prohibition movement started about 1760 in England,
Okay.
because they invented a new drink called gin.
Right.
And gin was made with the juniper berry.
Oh. So that's a relatively new drink.
A relatively, but it got the lower classes drunk quicker.
I see.
So the streets of London were filled with people on what we call Skids Row or the Bowery.
Right.
They were lying around the streets of London, drunk on gin.
Yeah.
And it definitely shortened lifespan.
Sure.
So the medical doctors and the Calvinistic religions, both Presbyterian and Congregationalist,
Yeah.
wanted to restrict
Yeah.
the sale of gin.
Yeah.
And they developed the temperance movement.
Okay.
Temperance is the idea of the golden rule.
Right.
Don't do anything in excess. But it's okay to have wine for communion.
Right.
It's okay to have wine for Christmas dinner. But don't get drunk.
Right.
That's the high class, you
Okay.
see.
Yep.
Well, anyway,
You all right?
yeah.
Okay. We can get you a drink of water if you.
Yeah,
think
well,
you
I
need
think
one.
we'll get
You'll
through
be all
this.
right. Okay.
So,
Do you want to go back? I know you'll eventually get to the point of where you're talking about the Arabs smoking hashish
right.
instead of consuming
Alcohol.
alcohol.
So the Muslims had a stronger condemnation of alcohol
Yes.
than the Christians or the Jews, and outlawed drink.
Now, how is it they feel about it today? What do you know?
Well, the Arabs don't have any wheat or grapes to grow wine and alcohol.
Yeah, I understand.
It's a question of
No, I'm not
shortage.
concerned about the alcohol. I'm concerned about the natural plant, this marijuana.
The Arabs,
you
as a
know.
civilization, are way behind Christianity and Judaism.
Okay.
They are 200 years behind because they haven't studied medicine.
I understand that, but my whole idea, are they smoking weed over there now, or?
I think that Iran has a serious opium problem.
Oh, opium. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's a whole different
Yeah, that's a
ball
drug.
game. Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yes, it is.
And hashish kind of died out in the Middle East
Oh, okay.
because there are far more powerful drugs.
Yeah.
And opium became the big drug beginning about 1600s.
Yeah.
Because the British discovered that they could
Right.
take opium from India
Yeah.
and sell it to China, and the Chinese would get addicted, and they could drain all of the gold out of China by
Wow.
forcing opium into China.
Okay.
So opium is a dangerous substance
Right.
which leads people to go to sleep narcotic and drunk, and they just want to sit around and not do any work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
It kind of destroys their initiative.
right.
Yeah.
So anyway, the early British poets began to take opium
Right.
because you got drunk faster.
Yeah.
But
And they thought it was inspirational or
Yeah, yeah.
inspiring. or
but
something
anyway,
like that.
the British scientific community outlawed the importation of opium into Britain.
Okay.
It was illegal.
Yeah.
And eventually they passed international laws
Yeah.
about 1914
Yeah.
restricting the importation of opium, morphine,
Yeah.
and hash, and any other narcotic substance.
I don't know how early it started in England, in London, but
1750 was the gin crisis.
okay. But I know later on that they had these opium dens, so to speak. I guess that's what they called them. You know, where people would go gather together.
These were outlawed in England.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
illegal.
Well, of course they were.
Okay, now, eventually, opium is repressed.
Okay.
Okay. Now, distilled opium becomes morphine.
Okay.
And morphine is a useful chemical
Right.
for stopping pain.
Sure.
So I had an operation from cancer. And they gave me morphine, but it's strictly rationed.
Right.
They gave me a dose every 3 hours,
Yeah.
no more. And then when I got out of the hospital, absolutely no more morphine.
Yeah.
But you see, some people say, well, I like that because it knocks me out. I don't feel any pain. And they start buying morphine
Yeah.
illegally.
I did a little study. David DeWitt and I did a program on these opiates that are a problem
Right.
now. And it goes all the way back to Merck, way back, I think in the 1600s. You've heard of the company Merck?
Yeah, okay.
And big drug company. But
Right.
Somebody there, one of their scientists, lab workers, discovered, how to make the opium into morphine.
Right.
And then a little later on, not too many years later, where it really took off and where it was become abused was the fact when the guy developed the hypodermic
Yeah,
syringe.
1898. 1898.
Yeah.
And
so,
then you could inject heroin.
Yeah, you could inject a lot of things.
And
into it,
that's that's distilled opium.
Yeah.
That's distilled
Yeah.
morphine.
Right.
Much more powerful thing. Now they got this Oxycontin that's even stronger.
Yeah.
So the drugs are getting stronger and stronger, and that causes addiction quicker and
Yeah.
quicker.
Yeah.
So there is a legitimate need for the use of alcohol for medicinal purposes. There is a legitimate need for morphine for medical purposes. But it has to be strictly rationed by doctors.
Okay.
It
Now,
can't be taken at will by poets.
Robert,
That's the problem.
Robert, early on, I asked the question: why are you opposed
Because
to
I'm
the
a Puritan.
legalization of
That's right.
marijuana?
Okay.
You don't think that you think that what's going to happen first? It's the first step is to legalize it for people who want to help alleviate some of their medical
Okay.
problems
Well,
or
you're
their
leaving out a
pain.
lot of history here.
Okay,
Now, you heard of the Prohibition movement.
sure.
In 1840, the state of Maine was the first state to outlaw the consumption of intoxicating alcohol.
All right.
And that started the Prohibition movement.
Okay.
And Ohio was second. And Colorado, pretty soon, half the states in the United States, by state law, prohibited the sale of alcohol. And there was a famous lady by the name of Carrie Nation.
All right.
She came from Kansas.
Right.
And the problem there was that when the average salary was $6 a week,
Yeah.
and these Irish came to the United States, and Germans who came to the United States, and were in the habit of drinking beer and whiskey in heavy doses,
Yeah.
they spent their salary Saturday night for the big party,
Right.
and it left only a couple of dollars left for
Yeah.
groceries.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was the women who got into the Prohibition movement.
Yeah.
Cut down the consumption of alcohol.
Right. Well, and I think it's understandable why women would be opposed to it because of how it affected not only their lives, but most of them had children. And,
That's right.
And it affected their lives.
Okay, so that became known as the temperance movement.
Right.
Now, prohibition is one step further. Temperance means just try and do it voluntary.
Right.
Temperance, the laws, you know, they have all kinds of laws.
Sure.
Well, you can take beer, but no distilled beverages. That's one way.
Yeah.
Close the bars early.
Right.
Okay. Well, anyway, Prohibition was gaining ground between 1840 and 1917.
Okay.
But to modify the Constitution, you have to have 2/3 of the Congress and 3/4 of the states.
Okay.
It had not yet been ratified when the First World War broke out.
Okay.
And the United States joined First World War. And Woodrow Wilson personally was a prohibitionist because he came from the South. And the southern states wanted to restrict the sale of alcohol because of blacks. They didn't want blacks to be getting drunk and having crime. So they wanted to keep alcohol out of the hands of blacks and keep the price high and have prohibition. Okay? So so it's tied up with racial attitudes, it's tied up with religious attitudes.
Sure.
And medical.
Right.
Okay? So anyway, in 1917, Pierre S. DuPont, who manufactures most of the alcohol, decided to join the Prohibition movement and get Woodrow Wilson to get the last 3 states to ratify this so-called 18th Amendment
Okay.
for the purpose of the war.
Okay.
Because you can use the alcohol for gunpowder and win the war with the use of alcohol and cutting down and at the same time it would cut down the consumption of soldiers. It would make the soldiers more sober and they'd win the war more rapidly.
Yeah.
Okay? That's how Prohibition was passed.
All right.
Well, when the war was over in 1919, the attitude shifts rather rapidly. The same guys who wanted Prohibition now want it repealed because P.S. DuPont can make money on selling alcohol to the whiskey business and so forth and so on. Okay?
Okay.
So anyway, there's now a repeal of the 18th Amendment, and that became the 21st Amendment, and was eventually repealed in 1933.
Was DuPont located there in Wilmington,
the
Delaware?
same place, that's right.
Okay. All right.
So anyway, there was a big argument between the wets and the dries between 1919 and 1933.
Yeah.
The wets wanted to repeal Prohibition, and the dries wanted to keep it on the books.
Yeah.
So it was repealed. Now let's go back to marijuana. While you had Prohibition, it was being violated by speakeasies.
Okay.
And the state of Washington, state of Michigan, state of New York, Boston, all the places where you have open borders to the sea
Okay.
became havens for bringing in smuggled whiskey
Right.
from Canada, from France, and so forth and so on. So I lived in Long Island,
Yeah.
Baldwin, Long Island.
Right.
I was 6 miles from the ocean and 2 miles from the bay.
Right.
And I had a Sunday school teacher who was a Puritan and was telling all his kids, don't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
The Methodists were against alcohol.
Right.
And my father said, what was the name of this guy? And I said, well, Clyde Herbert. He said to me, after I was 18 and was ready to graduate, he said, do you know that Clyde Herbert was in the speakeasy business?
Is that right?
He went out in his boat with fish and got 6 cases of whiskey, and they threw the fish over top of it and sold that to trucks, and they shipped that to Manhattan, and it was an illegal whiskey business.
Well, wasn't Joe Kennedy in Boston?
That's right,
Mass,
same thing.
Yeah, doing the same thing. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, Prohibition failed because they tried to do too much.
Yeah.
But the idea of temperance, the idea of cutting down consumption, was plausible, okay?
Yeah.
And marijuana then was a substitute used during the Prohibition era because you could get high on marijuana, and they call it, they didn't call it hash, they called it marijuana. It was Mary Jane. It was a nice marketable name. See?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's how marijuana got popular between 1919 and 1933.
Wow.
Well, as soon as the alcohol business came back,
But it was popular among what groups of people?
Texans.
Well, you
New
were
Mexico-
telling me one time that it was mostly like the musician types, or
That's later. That's later.
later. Okay.
California, okay.
Okay.
Now, California is near Hollywood, and you could smuggle marijuana from Mexico rather quickly to marijuana to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Well, a drummer likes to do the drumming when he's 18, but when you start drumming 30, 33, it's boring.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, the best drummer that I ever heard of was a guy by the name of Gene Krupa.
Yeah.
And then the rumor was that Gene Krupa was taking marijuana,
Yeah.
okay? But they were trying to repress marijuana.
Yeah.
So the Hollywood people got into drugs, the same way with, they got into heavy alcohol too.
Yeah.
So Hollywood, it tends to be hedonistic, drink for pleasure, and so forth and so on, and there's a high addiction rate in Hollywood,
Yeah.
okay? Well, anyway, marijuana was repressed by the Federal Drug and Alcohol Administration because they wanted to increase the sales of alcohol.
Okay.
So they passed a marijuana tax in 1937. And it said anybody wants to go in the marijuana business, they have to pay a heavy tax.
Yeah.
So anyway, marijuana practically disappears between 1937 and 1960. Okay? And in World War II, nobody was doing marijuana.
Yeah.
They were getting drunk on alcohol, beer and whiskey, and the consumption.
Well, you know, Robert, they had much easier access to alcohol than they did marijuana.
And tobacco. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. So marijuana was declining.
Yeah.
Now the whole thing changed in 1960 when Kennedy got elected, and Tim Leary got involved with LSD, and there was suddenly
Yeah.
an expansion of all kinds of
Yeah.
illegal drugs during the Vietnam War.
For those in the audience that don't know who Tim Leary is, he was a Harvard psychologist. He taught at Harvard, and he was recognized as the man who came up with LSD. And
Well, the chemical was invented in Switzerland.
right, but he promoted it here in the States, and he had a saying, "Tune in, turn on, and drop out."
Yeah.
Well.
Well, he promoted...
The people in Cambridge, Massachusetts, told Timothy Leary that perhaps he should drop out because they fired him at Harvard. And,
Yeah, well, see, what Tim Leary did was to give this stuff to his students.
yeah,
That's exploitation.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. That's what got him.
And the
Probably got
CIA
him
was
fired.
giving LSD out because they thought it was a truth serum.
Yeah,
And they thought they could use it for intelligence
yeah.
purposes.
In interrogating
Right.
people.
Yeah. So the drugs went wild beginning in 1960.
Yeah.
So then people rediscovered Indian drugs, peyote, and so forth and so on. So one thing led to another. And alcohol consumption, cocaine, all was going up as a protest on the part of the students to the authorities. Okay.
Yeah.
And they're saying medicine. Oh, well, here, I'll get some statistics.
Okay.
In 1964,
All right. That's when you come to the OU campus.
1964, there were 50,000 marijuana smokers in the whole United States.
Yeah. Wow.
Within 4 years, 1968, it was millions. They didn't bother counting it.
Yeah.
That's how fast marijuana
Yeah.
spread among the so-called New Left or
Right.
the student hedonists or the New Romantics, anything you want to call them.
Well, the Vietnam War was taken off, so
That's right.
You know,
Right.
that was probably.
So
something
anyway,
that-
the Federal Drug and Alcohol Tobacco Authority had trouble in repressing the consumption of marijuana,
Right.
and it expanded.
Yeah.
And the same way with peyote and LSD and so forth and so on. See?
Right.
So we have a general drug problem in the United
Right.
States. Okay.
Ethan, are we getting close to the halfway point?
25 minutes.
Okay, remaining. We have 25 minutes remaining.
35 remaining. We're 25 minutes in.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
we can stop here.
Yeah, my name is Steve Antle. I'm with Dr. Robert Whaley. Today we're discussing the medical marijuana being on the ballot in the state of Ohio. You're watching, this is program 367, and today is May 24th, 2016. Just in case I didn't get that in the beginning, we know now where we're at. And Dr. Whaley is, give us a little history on where marijuana started out at, and and how it's come along over the years, and even the fact that they issued or wanted to issue a tax on marijuana, which kind of put it out of business, on the legal level anyway. But that is what we are talking about, and that's what we'll continue to talk about for the next 25 minutes. So.
Anyway, under Nixon, marijuana was treated like all of the other drugs, a narcotic drug, and was considered illegal. Okay?
Now, our friend Richard Nixon, he started the DEA. Did you know? Yes, in 1972.
Right.
Drug Enforcement Agency.
Right.
So yeah, he was kind of down on. He was down on drugs.
Right.
And
Right.
the problems that they sometimes cause.
Nevertheless, medical doctors did discover that distilled THC, tetrachlorine carbinol, that's the chemical,
Okay.
can help glaucoma.
Yeah.
And I take that for glaucoma. And it cost me $1.50 for a bottle. Okay. It's not cheap.
Yeah.
So I asked this doctor, I said, well, how much marijuana would I have to smoke to get the same? You'd have to be smoking a joint every 2 hours
Yeah.
to do that. So smoking marijuana is not a substitute for drugs.
Oh, I just wanted to say that somebody smoking a joint every 2 hours, they'd be cutting down. You know, they would.
So then the problem is, if you legalize marijuana, at what point do you become a pothead? What point do you become a liable risk driving cars?
Well, I was
getting into
going to
automobile
ask you,
accidents.
I could ask you a personal question here. I know you're a Puritan, but you've never smoked marijuana.
Never tried it.
Okay. Never really had any desire.
Never had any desire. Now, I smelt plenty of marijuana in World War II, but I didn't know it was marijuana.
Yeah.
Because in World War II, the common thread was Cecil.
Right.
And they got it from Mexico. And they used that for wrapping up packages.
Yeah.
Well, in World War II, they needed every Cecil thread for the war.
Right.
Now, marijuana is a cheap rope.
Yeah.
So my father was in the scrap.
Hemp.
Yeah, my father was in the scrap business in 1941.
Yeah.
And we were collecting newspapers and wrapping up in rope and then delivering it to the war effort, because they were using newspapers to make cardboard, and it was part of the scrap drive.
Right.
So I was burning rope in my garage, and I knew the smell very well.
Burning rope, but you weren't smoking rope.
No, it was stinky. Nobody would even think of doing it. Okay.
Okay.
So in 1964, when I first came to Athens, I heard that there was one bar here on Court Street.
Yeah.
And that wasn't on Court Street. It was on
West Union.
West Union. You could go upstairs and you could buy marijuana under the table.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have any idea to come up there.
Yeah.
And I thought it was stupid. Okay.
But didn't you tell me some of the people over in the music department were probably going over there?
Musicians and artists and poets tend to get addicted to alcohol and all kinds of drugs.
They're always looking for insight.
Yeah, yeah. yeah. But this is imagination.
Maybe if they hallucinate enough,
yeah,
they
yeah.
could create
Yeah,
something
it is
really
a hallucinatory
artistic.
drug, right?
Yeah.
But
So-
medically, it doesn't do all of the things that they claim. It's imagination, okay?
Yeah.
Now, it is a painkiller.
Yeah.
Now, there are people who are terminally ill on cancer,
Yeah.
and they're going to die in 6 weeks anyway. And taking medicinal marijuana is cheaper than buying the chemical Davon, which my father got as he was dying of cancer.
Yeah.
So you could say that medical marijuana is a way of shortcutting the pharmaceutical industry,
Yeah.
getting cheap drugs.
Well, I think if those people were on their way out, they ought to be able to do whatever drug they want to.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
for that matter.
that's what these states doing. See.
Yeah.
So Arizona, New Mexico, California, Colorado, state of Washington got legalizing marijuana, but the federal drug authority still makes it illegal.
Yeah.
But they allow the state laws, and then it becomes a question: is the federal going to enforce this over the objections of the state?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Okay. So anyway, the marijuana laws, legalizing it, will encourage as a gateway drug to harder stuff. That's my argument, and that's the argument of John Burnham.
Yeah. When we mentioned John Burnham earlier, I guess he did mention he's a social historian from Ohio State. He's a personal friend of Robert's, and he wrote a book called Bad Habits, and drug taking was part of that book. And
Right.
we did about 6 installments on that program in past years, but it's a good book if you want to look into addiction. John Burnham's Bad Habits book. So.
Yeah. Now, there is a lobby called the Reasonable Marijuana Laws.
Yeah, yeah.
And the guys in charge of that are political scientists.
Are you talking about NORML?
Yeah.
NORML, yeah. The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
These people are not medical doctors.
Yeah.
They're not promoting medicine. They're promoting...
That would be like you signing on. You're not a medical doctor, you're a PhD historian.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They are promoting ordinary people to be using marijuana because of profits.
Mm-hmm.
If you legalize marijuana, the people in Meigs County think they're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been buying all the land I can down that way.
So there are some people in state of Ohio, particularly around Kentucky, where the marijuana grows, think that they're going to make big profits by legalizing medical marijuana.
Yeah.
But I ask these people a very simple question. You legalize it, what's going to stop Mexico and the Mexican drug dealers to come in and take away that business because they can do it cheaper? Mm-hmm. Mexican marijuana can be smuggled to the state of Ohio.
Competition.
Yeah. So the idea of making this a Ohio monopoly for the benefit of Ohio farmers, it'll last about 2 years. Mm-hmm. Because most of the marijuana is grown in Northern California on federal land.
Isn't that what your acquaintance Bill Hayes is promoting?
Yeah, I think he's naive.
Okay.
Now, his argument is that he came from West Virginia, and his father or grandfather was allowed tobacco.
Yeah.
And the tobacco was strictly rationed. You could only have a quarter acre.
Yeah.
You couldn't expand it.
Yeah.
But this quarter acre allowed some tobacco companies to survive.
Yeah.
But when they discovered that tobacco definitely causes cancer, they began to cut down the acreages.
Yeah.
And when the old farmer died, who used to sell tobacco in North Carolina with 10 acres, he couldn't pass those grandfather rights on, and
Yeah.
gradually the number of acres allowed for tobacco are being cut down.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, they're being reduced.
So anyway, I don't think there are any big profits in the marijuana business,
Right.
except as an illusion. Now, I understand that Meg's Gold can be
Yeah.
marketed in Holland, and they allow marijuana in Holland to be smoking. In other words, Amsterdam, Holland
Right.
is sort of like the Las Vegas of Europe.
Right.
If you go there, free sex, free drugs,
Right.
and people can get as much drugs as they want.
Right.
But that's a Dutch law.
Yeah.
But the Dutch government would like to repress it for most of the Dutch population.
Yeah.
They don't want everybody to get on it.
Right.
But if there are some stupid
But-
tourists who want to go over
Yeah,
there,
exactly. That's what they are, tourists that come into that area.
yeah,
for
they
that-
can make a little profit.
for drugs and women.
Yeah. So I don't believe in the passage of
Go ahead. Just-
of
you're right.
marijuana for profits.
Okay.
What does it profit a man?
Well, I'm not so sure that, I mean, I'm not so sure that was the idea. I mean, I thought it was to help those people who are terminally ill or have some sort of affliction that would not require, but could be alleviated by the use of
All right.
marijuana.
Okay, so
That's why it is a medicinal marijuana
Okay.
bill.
the question I have for this Ohio ballot, who are the doctors who claim that this is good for medicinal purposes? What are the dosages? Are there any limits on this?
Robert, wouldn't you think that perhaps they might consult those doctors in Washington State or in the state of Colorado? Don't you figure that they were part of the argument before, it became legal?
All right, have you ever heard of Soros?
George Soros,
Yeah.
Budapest, Hungary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know that he is in the opium business?
No, I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised. He's one of the richest men in the world,
Well, it's called money laundering. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, of course, it's hard to enforce,
Right.
but the money launderers who change pounds and yen and dollars and so forth and so on, and the drug people have to deal in dollar bills.
Yeah.
They can't use the checks
Yeah.
because
That's
the
right.
federal authorities will
Yeah.
find out who they are.
Yeah.
So the drug dealers, whether they're dealing in heroin or cocaine or marijuana, use cash only.
Right. Yeah.
Now the salesman in Mexico
Yeah.
has a suitcase,
Yeah.
and he'll sell you any drug you want:
Yeah.
marijuana, cocaine, oxycontin.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't separate. You don't have a nice clean office saying marijuana only.
Right. Yeah. I think probably most of the viewers watching knows that I used to live on the Mexican border, and I'm not saying you know that, but what I'm saying is usually when you go into Mexico, your first thing you wonder what you're going to see. Well, the first thing you see are drugstores. And you just you can pretty much buy anything you want there, I guess. I don't know, but the people in Southern California and in Southern Arizona and New Mexico and Texas, they just travel over to Mexico and buy their drugs, and now I was surprised that if you went over there and you were going to buy some, let's say, some tetracycline or something like that. It's manufactured by Bristol Myers Squibb or whatever that drug company is, one of those outfits, and evidently, or at least it's packaged that way. I don't know what
Okay.
So I guess maybe the U.S. drug companies are selling drugs to Mexico to then sell back to
Okay. So
people.
the real question is, what is the motive of smoking marijuana? Is it really to cut pain, or is it done to get hallucinations.
Well,
Yeah,
I
that's the
believe
argument.
there are those people that are smoking marijuana to reduce the amount of pain that they're in, and you know that's I think that's a good thing. But for the most part, you ask what the motive is for smoking marijuana. It's for pure recreation for most people's part. You know, the high they receive from smoking it, and
Okay, well, you see, there's an age question here. Should a 21-year-old adult up be able to buy all the alcohol he wants, but if you're 20, he should be restricted? Or do you lower it to 18? Or do you lower it to 16?
Yeah.
Or do you go down to 10?
Well, I don't think
What-
you're ever. I don't think anybody's going to agree to that you sell it to anybody below the age of 18. But
Well, they do in Spain. You
well,
can-
that's in Spain.
Yeah.
But let's
Okay.
talk about what we're doing here.
And
It's
they-
like if you
Yeah.
he was talking about Amsterdam earlier. You can
Right.
buy a lot of things over there that
Right.
you should never be able to buy over here. So
Okay, so you are somewhat of a Puritan yourself.
yeah, I would say that,
Okay.
compared to a lot of people my age. I shouldn't say to a lot of people my age, but,
Okay.
but,
So I always say, and Burnham says, you have to draw the line somewhere.
yeah.
And the prescription should be regulated, the ages should be regulated, and we shouldn't just have an open market. Buy as much marijuana as you want,
Right.
as cheap as
Well,
you want.
well, the whole thing is, Robert, there's going to be a market price. They'll establish a market price.
No, they don't establish it. It's competition.
Well, yeah, it will, but at the same time, there's a competition establishes a market. Whatever the market will bear, that's what they're going to establish. And the thing is, I suppose if you got the money and you're old enough, you can buy it. But no, I don't think anybody. It's just like alcohol; they don't want to see underage people drinking it or anything else. But I might add that I would much rather be around marijuana smokers than I would somebody drinking even beer, because it's as a trained observer, it's my. What I find is that the alcohol drinkers tend to be a lot more aggressive, and after they drink so much, they tend to get irritable, and whereas the marijuana smokers are all pretty calm and easygoing,
All right, now let's take the comparison between tobacco and alcohol.
Okay.
It depends upon the quantity and how often and how many years.
Yeah.
Now, you can take 1 cigarette, 10 cigarettes, you can be smoking for 5 years, and there's no violence whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes 40 years to develop a cancer.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah.
So the long-term smoking habit is more dangerous than alcohol over the long run.
Mm-hmm.
But so one drink maybe make more violence than smoking cigarettes. And I, as a kid, could say, "Oh, I don't see any harm in this. No harm.
Yeah.
Doesn't affect your brain anyway whatsoever. In fact, it stimulates me." Well, that's what the smokers used to say in 1940.
Yeah, you always, and we've talked about this before, the people on Madison Avenue were promoting cigarettes, and even doctors were endorsing those cigarettes.
All right, now, the problem with marijuana is this THC is refined. But if you take the raw marijuana, there are 60 chemicals in there.
Yeah.
And some of these chemicals, like benzopyrene, are the same stuff that's in tobacco.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of lung diseases that may appear in heavy pot smokers. They haven't
But
done enough research on it.
Robert, people do not smoke marijuana like they smoke cigarettes. You get there's 20 cigarettes in a pack.
Yeah.
And people don't walk around with 20 joints in a pack, and then as soon as they're done with one, then they start up another. They would be messed up all day
All
long.
right. How many joints does it take to be a pothead?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
What is a pothead?
That's someone who smokes a great deal of marijuana and doesn't do much of anything
And gets
else.
into an automobile accident and
Yeah,
drives
well,
the car off.
yeah, he might. Yeah,
Or falls asleep while he's taking the exam.
it could be.
They've given exams in high school.
Okay, well, let's
those
talk
are
about giving exams in college. You were a college teacher. Tell me, did you ever have students under the influence in your classroom?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I did do. These kids who are all promoting marijuana, oh, it's great stuff, so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, it cures glaucoma. That was their big argument. It cures glaucoma.
How many from 18 to 22-year-olds have
exactly
glaucoma?
Right. That's exactly right. I said,
know?
I'm going to give a secret ballot. Fill out a sheet of paper, and you could write yes or no. How many in this class are taking marijuana because of glaucoma?
Yeah.
I took that poll with
Yeah.
50 people.
Yeah.
75% said they were smoking marijuana because they had glaucoma. You think they're telling the truth?
I think 75% of them were under the influence. I mean, I bet in a class of 50, I doubt that you could find one student
Yeah.
that had glaucoma.
Yeah, but that was one of the arguments.
That's a disease that afflicts older people.
That's called rationalization.
So they lied to you.
You know what a rationalization is, don't you?
Of course I do, but you go ahead and explain it to the audience.
You tell a plausible lie
A plausible lie, okay.
that justifies your habit.
I see.
Now, I was in the Army, okay, and one of the jobs you have is to clean the latrine.
Okay,
So Saturday afternoon, they're cleaning the latrine.
right.
And this one guy says, well, one of the reasons why I smoke cigars is to kill the stink of this latrine. Well, I laughed. I said, what a rationalization.
You're not going to believe this, but do you remember our old friend Michael Bartelt, the psychologist?
Yeah.
Well, Mike had a cat,
Yeah.
and he would always smoke cigarettes while he was cleaning the cat box.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something to that, you
Yeah.
know. Anyway, so, but anyway, we're getting sidetracked here, Robert. So, do you think the chances of that bill passing,
I think,
in November?
I think it'll pass because
think it will?
there are some people who think they're going to make money. But they'll
Well.
be disillusioned in the long run.
Yeah. I guess maybe I
It's the
should.
bandwagon.
Maybe I should cancel the order of that new BMW.
Okay. Now, I had a person argue that they went to California
Yeah.
to take all of the marijuana forms there. You can get it in a cake, you can get all kinds of dosages and so forth and so on. And they had a list of 12 diseases that it cures and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
Well, they used to say that about snake oil,
Yeah.
the old-fashioned medicine.
You know,
They used to take a thing
I'm wondering.
They used to have a chemical called, they used to have a patent drug called Hadacol. Hadacol was supposed to...
probably had a bunch of alcohol in it, right?
Yeah, it had some alcohol in it,
Yeah.
but it was supposed to clear...
Yeah. I would be when you're talking about these people telling that that the marijuana helps this and that and whatever else. I would like to know what the New England Journal of Medicine would have to say
They've had
about
research
that.
on it. They've had research.
And what was their conclusion?
It's a very complex problem. It's agreed that it's a narcotic. But is it as effective as Darvon? I'd like to see that.
Well, see, the nice thing about it is if you have some sort of affliction and they legalize this, I suppose, then you can maybe, you know, if you got a little plot of ground out back of your house or whatever, you could grow your own medicine, I guess.
Yeah. Now, I had two students came into my office back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you're a pretty liberal guy. We're going to invite you to take cocaine.
Okay.
And I said, now, I'm 30 years old.
Yeah.
Why should I take cocaine? You know what their argument was? It's cultural.
Yeah, cultural.
That's
Cultural.
the way. That's the way to advertise.
Is that the way it is?
Yeah, you sell cigarettes. It's Marlboro. That's up class.
that's
Sophisticated people smoke Pall Malls.
Well, your buddy Edward Bernays, he came up with that, you know.
So that's what this normal is to use
Normal,
sophisticated. Marijuana is not harmful in any way.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there's no medical doctor who will say that smoking marijuana is not harmful to some degree. Then the question is, well, how harmful?
Yeah.
Then you got to have some medical evidence.
True.
Okay.
But I was just wondering, you know, somebody offered you cocaine, you know, and
I said no, because I
yeah.
had a Puritan background.
right. And,
But if I was
you
an
know,
artist, I'd
but-
say, oh, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Experimental.
Yeah.
That's another argument, experimental. Oh, I was just experimenting.
Yeah, I see.
Everybody's experimenting. Well, at a certain
right.
point, the experiments get over and it
Yeah,
becomes
right.
habitual.
Right.
When do his
You're going to
experiments...
you're going to reach the same conclusion every time. You know? That's the definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different conclusion.
Oh, I only took LSD once or twice, and then I gave it up.
Oh boy! But so you think it probably will pass?
My guess is that people are foolish about medicine.
Yeah.
It's emotional.
Yeah. But you know, you say you have
In other words, the argument is everybody's doing it. You know what? When I was teaching against the war in Vietnam,
Yeah.
these guys were taking pot, and there was this guy who was 20 years old,
Yeah.
and well, I'm smoking pot. They're lying about this war, and these authorities are lying about these drugs.
Yeah.
It was a symbol to thumb your nose at authority.
Yeah.
And I laughed because
Yeah.
I was an authority.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was a PhD
Yeah.
trying to tell them they should read history. See?
Right.
But this guy was against all authorities.
Yeah.
So because the Johnson administration was being questioned,
Yeah.
well, how about all medical science? Medical
Right.
scientists don't know anything.
Right.
We know more about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
these laws outlawing it is put in there by the drug companies in order to make beer profits or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had all kinds
It's one big conspiracy,
yeah,
right? You know?
they believe in conspiracies.
Well, anyway, I don't know what to tell you, Robert.
Oh, you can believe anything you want to believe. You can vote.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Certainly, I definitely intend on voting, but you know, I'll have to kind of study this some before
Well,
I
you might get
make a
John
decision.
Byrne.
You already made your decision. But,
Yeah, I made it on the business of John Burnham.
Yeah.
John Burnham says it's a gateway drug.
Yeah.
That smoking cigarettes lead to going to the pool hall and swearing. Swearing leads to taking your first beer.
Yeah.
Taking your first beer is, well, let's try marijuana.
Yeah.
The next step is cocaine. It's
Yeah.
a step gateway thing, and you get harder and harder drugs. Unless you have some
Well, yeah.
some reason
you left,
for drawing the
you
line.
left something out there once you got on alcohol and marijuana and all that. There's women usually involved too.
Yeah, that's another.
You know.
That's another problem.
That could be a serious problem. But,
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I think we're going to probably, since this is May, I would guess perhaps maybe by next month we'll probably start reading a great deal of what's going on with this the legalization of marijuana. And matter of fact, you enlightened me to the fact that it would be on the ballot in November. So we got a lot of things that are going to be on the ballot in November. So
What else is going to be on the ballot?
well, it's
Well,
a presidential election,
okay,
and
right.
and
I'd just like to repeat that they had a marijuana last year and was defeated.
yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't decide on who was going to sell it, and
Yeah,
and
this
all
was
that.
the question of profits.
Yeah, yeah.
Who's going to get the profits?
Well, what do they say? Oh, you always follow the money.
yeah, you follow the money.
Okay, this has been a discussion on marijuana and some other things, I guess you might say, and that it is going to be on the November ballot. And I kind of think you'll probably figure it out which way Robert Whaley's going to be voting on it. But anyway, thanks for watching ACTV. And this is Channel 9, by the way. And I guess you'll be seeing David DeWitt sometime soon. And Robert discuss more of the political race for 2016. Thanks for watching.